Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are watching this out there on the World Wide Web. This is Jeremy Geelan for SYS-CON TV. We're here at 8th Cloud Expo, that is Cloud Expo New York, as is Pat Walsh from our good friends Talend. Thank you for joining us, Pat.
Happy to be here.
And now I know Talend is an octopus almost, so many things going on. You're representing what Talend is doing in one particular sector. Share that with us.
Yeah, we call it our application integration sector, and it's really based on technologies like enterprise service buses that enable companies to connect their systems and applications.
And there's some tie-up, I know, to Apache that's new for you, or that's just time to wake up the world and tell them about it?
Well, it's new for Talend. The Apache community has some interesting projects that we're now affiliated with and we sponsor. We have folks that are members of the community at Apache. They're committers to the CXF, Camel, ActiveMQ, and Carafe projects, and we're using those technologies as the basis for our ESB and for our other application integration technologies.
And how does all that relate to the cloud, Pat? Let's just string it all, piece it all together for us.
Sure. If we look at the cloud, there are a couple of traits about it. The elasticity of the cloud, the ubiquity of the cloud. Those two things really play well to an open source solution. Number one, with elasticity, as you scale up, it could be quite expensive, economically unfeasible if you scale too high and you have to pay proprietary prices. Having an open source solution that enables you to scale without having to face those exorbitant costs is one attractive thing in the cloud. The other thing is the ubiquity of these projects. We find that as integration particularly takes place in the cloud amongst hybrid environments, both on-premise and off, public and private clouds, it becomes difficult if you have proprietary technologies to integrate. Using open source projects that are massively popular across the world makes it that much easier because it's that much more pervasive and it's easier to link these up.
Are you finding, I'm not suggesting there's any barrier to using open source, but are you finding you have to evangelize still about the fact that you can go to the cloud with open source, or people understand that and just say, well, of course, you can go everywhere with open source. Let me just find out who to go with.
Yeah, I think it's more the adoption of cloud technology than it is open source technology. I think we've seen that open source technologies past that inflection point of adoption within enterprises. I know that large analyst firms have said that over 50% of people now see it as strategic within their businesses. So it really is about enterprise adoption of the cloud and how they pick it up, regardless of whether it's closed source technology or open source technology.
And from a Talend perspective, supporting Apache's initiative and something like this, what do you get out of it quite directly?
Well, from a development standpoint, developing in open source is a way in which you get all of the inputs of a large community and you don't have to just rely on a few developers. So what we're finding is that being part of that community, we get immediate feedback. We have very active Talend Forge and exchanges on our own site, but very active Apache communities that we're members of and leaders of in some cases. We're PMC leaders of a couple of those projects I mentioned. Getting that immediate feedback, helps us make certain that the solutions that we're putting out there really meet customer needs. So it helps us on the development side. It helps us ensure that we're much more tied up to the user base here. And as active committers and contributors, we're helping others to use it. Other vendors, other users, everyone benefits from the open.
Talend's successful company, growing company. What's the secret sauce, Pat? You can tell us. Nobody's going to copy you.
Well, we have this interesting adoption model, and it really does stem from the support of those open source projects. Talend itself has a very active community of projects in the data management space, and we've seen that having broad adoption and having an affiliation with those open source communities, not just borrowing the technology and building it into our proprietary solutions, but actively contributing back, gives us a very broad basis of users to build from. Well, within those users, many of them want to get supported, many of them want to find some way in which they can get help with implementations and such, and that's what's kind of paying the bills. And so, in addition, we're offering enterprise capabilities around those open source projects that we have in some circumstances, and so they'll subscribe and buy our technology as a commercial-based subscription product as well.
If there is such a thing, it sounds like an oxymoron. It's conventional commercial open source, almost.
Yeah, we like to call it an open core model, where the core of our technology really, what is effectively running the technologies underneath are open source projects. However, we have around that some of the capabilities that you would need to manage an enterprise environment, and we charge for those things. Those are a bit unique to enterprise environments, and so we charge for those while the open source technology is free to use and download for everyone.
Okay, well, we've got a lot of people watching this, so if I'm at talend.com and I want to go to the part of the site that's going to tell us specifically about what we've just discussed, where can I go?
Yeah, if you go onto the Talend communities, you'll find the Application Integration tab. It's right there in front of you. Click on that and you'll find our Application Integration solutions. It's nicely laid out across the unified platform for any use of data integration, data quality, master data management, or the area that I'm responsible for, application integration.
There you are. Personal invitation from Pat Walsh of Talend. Thank you so much for joining us, sir, here in New York City, and thank you for watching this out there on the World Wide Web.